For over 3 decades, The Simpsons has done something few shows ever achieve. It hasn't just entertained audiences, it has repeatedly appeared to predict the future. From political shifts to technological advancements, moments shown years earlier in this animated satire have later unfolded in real life, leaving viewers wondering whether this is coincidence or something deeper. Created by Matt Groening, the show was originally designed as a humorous reflection of society, exaggerating real-world trends for comedic effect. However, over time, certain episodes began aligning uncannily with actual events. One of the most famous examples is when Donald Trump was depicted as president in a 2000 episode, long before his real-life election in 2016. Similarly, the show portrayed wrist-based communication devices decades before products like the Apple Watch became mainstream, and even hinted at major corporate developments such as the Walt Disney Company acquiring 20th Century Fox. It also showcased video calling as a normal part of daily life years before platforms like Zoom became essential worldwide. Beyond these well-known examples, there are several other moments that fueled the belief that the show somehow sees the future. In one episode, a faulty voting machine incorrectly records a vote. Years later, similar concerns about electronic voting systems emerged during real-world elections. In another instance, the show depicted autocorrect errors on smartphones long before they became a common frustration for users around the world. It also touched on topics like smart homes, where devices control lighting, temperature, and security, something that is now increasingly common. Even ideas like wearable fitness trackers, AI-driven assistants, and algorithm-based recommendations were hinted at in subtle, humorous ways. Over time, as these technologies became part of everyday life, older episodes started to feel less like comedy and more like early blueprints of the modern world. The show didn't just reflect technology, it also mirrored global culture and media evolution. Long before the explosion of social media, The Simpsons portrayed a world where attention, fame, and influence could be gained rapidly and sometimes without substance. This aligns closely with today's influencer culture, where visibility often matters more than credibility. The show also highlighted the growing power of large corporations and media consolidation, something that became increasingly relevant as companies expanded their control over entertainment, news, and digital platforms. These portrayals were not predictions in a supernatural sense, but rather exaggerated reflections of trends that were already beginning to take shape. However, the real explanation lies not in prediction, but in pattern recognition and intellectual insight. The writers behind The Simpsons are known for their strong academic backgrounds, with many having studied mathematics, economics, and political science. This unique combination allows them to analyze complex systems and identify emerging patterns before they become obvious. Instead of randomly guessing the future, they take current developments and extend them forward in a logical and often satirical way. For example, the idea of global digital communication was already being explored in early forms. The Simpsons simply imagined a world where it became universal and instantaneous. In the same way, political satire in the show often exaggerates real personalities and systems, making future outcomes seem almost inevitable when viewed years later. Another crucial factor is scale and time. With more than 700 episodes produced over several decades, the show has explored thousands of different scenarios, jokes, and hypothetical situations. When such a vast amount of content exists, it significantly increases the likelihood that some elements will resemble real-world events in the future. This is a matter of probability rather than prophecy. Out of countless fictional ideas, a small number aligning with reality is not only possible, it is statistically expected. Yet, audiences naturally focus on these successful predictions, while ignoring the many instances that never came true, creating a selective perception of accuracy. The role of the internet has further intensified this illusion. In today's digital environment, short clips and comparison images spread rapidly across platforms, often presenting side-by-side visuals of past episodes and current events. These posts are designed to capture attention, and they frequently highlight the most convincing examples. In some cases, the connections are genuine and fascinating. In others, they are exaggerated, taken out of context, or even entirely fabricated. Edited images and misleading claims have contributed to the myth that The Simpsons has an almost supernatural ability to predict global events. Once this narrative took hold, every new coincidence only reinforced it. There is also a psychological dimension to this phenomenon. Humans are naturally drawn to patterns, especially when they appear meaningful or mysterious. When people see a past scene that resembles a present event, the brain quickly forms a connection and assigns significance to it. This is known as pattern recognition bias. It makes coincidences feel intentional and random alignments feel like evidence of foresight. Combined with the show's long history and cultural influence, this bias strengthens the belief that something unusual is at play, even when the explanation is grounded in logic and probability. In reality, The Simpsons operates as a powerful observational tool rather than a predictive one. It captures the direction of society by analyzing its present state, its politics, its technology, its culture, and then exaggerates it just enough to create humor and commentary. Over time, as the real world continues to evolve in similar directions, those exaggerated ideas begin to look accurate. What once seemed absurd gradually becomes normal, and what was once a joke starts to resemble reality. This is what makes The Simpsons so impactful. It doesn't rely on predicting the future, it relies on understanding the forces that shape it. By combining satire with sharp analysis, it creates a version of reality that feels ahead of its time. And when that time eventually arrives, the line between fiction and reality becomes blurred. In the end, the truth is clear: The Simpsons does not predict the future in a literal sense. Instead, it demonstrates how deeply observing the present can reveal where the world is headed. It is not a mystery of prophecy, but a case study in awareness, creativity, and long-term thinking. And perhaps that is even more powerful, because it shows that the future is not something hidden or unknowable. It is something that is quietly being shaped, right in front of us. If you want to understand how history is unfolding before our eyes, don't miss what comes next. Revisit Xfinity Evolution for deeper insights and powerful stories. Stay informed, stay curious, and join us again on Xfinity Evolution, where the world's biggest events come into focus.